Hi, this is Michael Longoria. I'm the next guest on Screen and Beyond.
On Screen and Beyond, an inside look into the entertainment world featuring interviews with people from the movie, TV, and music industry. And now, here's the host of On Screen and Beyond, Brian Zemrak.
Thank you for stopping by for another edition of On Screen and Beyond. This is episode 779. I'm your host, Brian Zemrak, and this is the show that brings you a celebrity guest each week from the movie, TV, and music industry. I hope you have a chance to check out last week's episode with Ray McKinnon, who many of you know from the roles that he played on Rectify, Sons of Anarchy, also Mayans MC, and so much more. And he talked about his film also, Randy and the Mob and the Accountant, which he wrote and starred alongside Walton Goggins, who many of you know from The White Lotus and more. And Walton also was co-producer on the film, so be sure to check that out. Today we sit down and chat with Michael Longoria, who was in the cast of the Jersey Boys on Broadway, as well as in Hairspray, and now he has a new album out called Catch a Wave, which celebrates the music of the Beach Boys. And you got to check this one out. It'll take you back. And also at the same time, it's a new spin on your favorite Beach Boys hits. So be sure to check that out. Michael will be coming up in just a moment. And those of you who have gone on onscreenandbeyond.com to look for or also download past episodes, all 779 of them, they're all there. And you may have found that many of the links, in fact, were dead to download a particular episode. So once again, the show host platform that I use has made changes, and those changes makes the links that they recognize not work. Okay. So I'm fixing all the episodes again. And right now you can go back to episodes season 1 to season 9. Those are all fixed. You should be able to get those with no problem. And also you can I'm working on getting all the rest done, so it's just a slow process, so I hope you'll bear with me. This does not affect if you're getting the show from any of the podcast providers such as Apple or Spotify or YouTube or anything like that. It's only if you're going through onscreenandbeyond.com. Okay, so you can go there, and I have all the lists of everything that all the people we've had and everything, and you can click on those. So like I said, 1 through 9 are all done, and we'll get the other ones fixed that you can. There are some that you can get to, but it's random. I don't really know, but the majority of them were bad. So but it's getting fixed, so please, like I said, bear with me. Well, it's time for Michael Longoria to join us. Michael Longoria next, right here on Screen and Beyond. Joining us today on Screen and Beyond, our guest has been seen on Broadway in the popular show Jersey Boys, also in Hairspray, and he is part of the group The Midtown Men, which is made up of cast members of the cast of Jersey Boys singing 60 Favorites. And his latest project takes him out on his own as he pays tribute to the music of the Beach Boys in his new album, Catch a Wave, and an album release concert on Saturday, April 11th at the Laurie Beechman Theater in New York City. It's Michael Longoria. Michael, welcome to On Screen and Beyond.
Hey, man. So glad to be here.
First off, I want to congratulate you. You did a great job on your album.
Thank you so much, man. It was a beautiful labor of love that, it took a long process of me going to and fro the studio, because I like to record albums in pieces, very like Brian Wilson did with Good Vibrations. Mm-hmm. But like I will go for a day, come back a few days later, and then just keep the process going until I finish. So that took a while to get these harmonies right. There's so many voices. I originally thought, it'll be just a few, oohs and ahs here and there, but no, like once you really study the Beach Boys, there's so much more, in that wall of sound that Brian Wilson was able to create with all of those instruments and all those vocal harmonies.
So you did all The harmonies in it?
Yes, I did
Wow.
all the harmonies and then some. Because some of the harmonies, I was like, all right, it still felt like when I did it, even though I did all of their harmonies, I was like, some of these songs on my versions felt a little like it needed something else, like for my own ear.
Mhm.
So a lot of these songs, I just on top of the skeleton, I continued to just like experiment with other sounds and other harmonies, of which I'm sure that's what Brian did as well, right? When he had the time in the studio, and I just really allowed myself and my heart to just kind of express itself, whatever it heard. Sometimes it was bad, so I'd have to be like, delete that, because it was all in the spur of the moment when I would do the additional harmonies.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I thought, in the promo stuff, I saw Michael Longoria and the Surf Tones. So I thought those guys were
Yeah.
doing the backgrounds.
Right. Well, the Surf Notes are the band,
Surf
which,
Tones.
which includes some vocalists, but that's when we do it live. So
Ah,
that's when, yeah. So
yeah, because no
we're
way
gonna do
you're
it
going to do
live.
it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I tried, splitting my voice a few times, but no, I can't. You can only do it one voice, one at a time. But what's interesting about that is that since there's so many harmonies, and since I had the opportunity to really dive in and do it alone with an engineer, it was like being able to express all of these emotions in a different character. Like when I was playing the bass line, right? When I'm singing the bass line of Mike Love, it was a different voice was coming out of me that was different than when I was singing the high falsetto parts of Brian Wilson. So having the experience as an actor as well, like to be able to go through a song lyrically in all those different ranges of yourself, it really kind of spurred up different emotions and different characters, which was kind of interesting. So that when we put all the voices together, it was this like magical wall of sound that kind of just became one.
Wow. I mean, that's really fascinating the way that you do that because, I've always heard, like you say, Brian Wilson, that's how he did things. He worked and tried this and tried that. The Beatles did
Right.
the same thing on Sergeant Pepper and some of those other albums, and they'd add little things after the fact, and so you're changing your voice at different levels to make that
Not
sound.
even, yeah, well, not even consciously, just because within the register where it is in my throat, right? So if it's a low thing, like I'm picking up the good vibration part, that character in my mind is like a different dude than the one who's singing bop bop, good vibrations bop. You know what I mean? Like those two guys are different guys.
Yeah.
Yet, of course, it's me singing it. But as the audience now that I'm able to listen to it all, it really is a through line of like one guy's spirit. Like if you really listen to my album from start to finish, it's almost as if you're listening to one guy going through all these things, as opposed to when we heard it in the first time, and all these amazing vocals with the Wilson brothers and the cousins that were in the Beach Boys. They all shared different parts, right? So you knew that one guy was singing down here, one guy's singing out here. But when you're hearing it from like the same vocal throat, like it's interesting. It's almost like you're hearing someone's soul um, express a song, because it's literally all the colors that are in the emotions of each song.
Wow, that's really cool. And now, of course, the Catch a Wave is all
Yes.
over the internet right now. If anybody wants to hear it, they can go and catch it, catch a wave.
Yeah, they could go catch that wave.
But how did you come up with the songs to do in this album? I mean,
Right.
there's so many Beach Boy album songs that you could have
Yeah.
picked. How did you pick these certain
Yeah.
ones?
Well, I always speak through emotion when I'm choosing music. So like whatever I felt had a deeper message. And interestingly enough, a lot of the songs that you would think are just like bubblegum pop songs, they really do have a deeper message. Like, the I mean, or even just like a deeper storyline, like the fun, fun, fun song, right? Like they're like fun, 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 yeah, yeah, you're at the party. But you really like dive into the lyrics. They really are telling a story about this girl who stole her boyfriend's keys to his car, and she's taking it around the block. You know what I mean? And it's like
Mhm.
you go through each verse, and you're seeing like the growth of this girl having a blast on her own, with the radio blasting, and they're just so descriptive with the storytelling of the song that that was one of the songs that I just had to pick, because I was like, wow, it's beyond just a fun pop song that I grew up listening to. Now it's a story that I actually can understand and like visualize because I'm singing it.
Mhm.
But I had to do songs that scared me as well, like Good Vibrations. Good Vibrations, as you know, historically, it cost them millions of dollars back in the day. I mean, took a lot of more effort to create that, I'm sure, back then, right? But it was the first time that they did the copy and paste method in the recording studio, where they didn't record a song from start to finish. They were like, all right, we're gonna do this, we're gonna come back to it, and then like months later, they would come back to it and paste another version, another piece. And in the composition of Good Vibrations, you could kind of see that, it takes you on a journey of different parts. And so when we were trying to accomplish it, we were like, all right, how are we going to do this in the recording studio? Because we do have to like get different vibes, literally, to each of these parts of Good Vibrations, yeah, and also tell that story. So similarly, we had to do copy and paste, and we did the first part of the song, separate file. All right, take a break. Then we did the middle part, and then like months later, as I was singing it and recording it and doing all the vocals, we mashed it all together. And I was like crossing my fingers, because up until that point, for me, it was these three different sections, three different songs, three different files. And once we were able to get it to the right, place, it came out so magically. And I'm just so glad that Good Vibrations is on my album now, and I could get to do it. And I through Brian Wilson and through Mike Love and through the inspiration that they gave me, and all of us, but me specifically, to go out there and do this, I was able to accomplish something that I was afraid of, and like conquer it, and musically, and it's because these guys inspired me, and that's kind of like what it's all about, is to let the inspiration get to you and then give it to somebody else.
Yeah, that's got to be an amazing feeling that, like you say, you don't really know how it's going to come out, but you've got all these things together, and when you package them, it's all of a sudden it's like, yes, we did it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we would do that every session when we would record like multiple vocal parts. We would do it line by line, right? And it would be very tedious, perfecting each line. All right, and then mute that line, next harmony. And I'd be doing sight reading, because we had it all arranged. So I'd be like literally like reading it on the paper and not really being able to really understand it. And then at the end of the session, we're like, all right, let's play just the vocals. Let's hear if it works. And it would be this magical moment where it was like, oh wow, like it sounds like that. Like this is what Brian wrote. Like these magical intertwining lines that mean something, like just emotionally they mean something, even if they're just saying wah, what I mean, like whatever the vowel is, like there's an emotionality behind it, and it really does help tell the story of the main character in each of these songs.
Yeah, and it's incredible how, like you say, a wah or a doo-wop or whatever, just those little things can change a song from being, it's a good song, to, wow, this is really something, I mean, it's amazing how that
But
works.
also gives it like a singability, like, sing along ability too. Like if you're in the car and you don't really know the words, when the bop bop comes, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain things, especially in those songs from the 60s. I was talking to one of the girls from the Shirelles. I got to sing with them years ago, and she was telling me about how they were like, well, we were in the recording studio and we were just like making up whatever vowels, to do run do whatever it was. Like they were just literally like doing things that made it like catchy, and it didn't necessarily mean something, but then it became so sing-alongable that people, you can't help, when those songs come on, you can't help but sing along, because those kind of like non-words.
Yeah,
they're like a musical phrases that make you feel joy.
I am Gary Sinise, and I'm on Screen and Beyond.
Of all the songs on the album, is there one that's most special to you?
Well, it does transfer, but the one that keeps coming back to it is "Don't Worry, Baby." And there's so much like through line as far as like why I'm doing this album to what that song is. Like Brian Wilson, I don't know if you know this story, but Brian Wilson was so inspired by the Ronettes' "Be My Baby" in the 60s. He loved Phil Spector's Wall of Sound. He spent like a lot of time trying to recreate and create his own version of what a wall of sound would be for the Beach Boys. But he was so inspired by that song that he wrote a response song to that, and he called it "Don't Worry, Baby." And it's all about if you really dive into the song, it's all about this guy who's challenged his buddies to a drag race, and he's terrified, and he gets in the car and he doesn't know what to do, but he turns on the radio and this girl's voice is singing, and something about the voice, in this song, she is saying, "Don't worry, baby, right? Everything will be all right." And he's basically saying that he hears the voice on the radio and the song gives him the courage to go through with the race, and maybe he wins or maybe he doesn't. They don't let you know if he wins or loses, but the whole meaning of it, he's telling us that this girl inspired him to conquer something, right? Similarly, in real life, this girl really inspired him just in general. So he wrote a song for her. And so that idea and that story, that he was inspired by somebody that I was also, I love Ronnie Spector. And I got to meet her before she passed, and she was amazing.
Wow.
So being able to like know that history, like this amazing man wrote this song because he was inspired, and then he recorded it. I'm listening to this song from the 60s and in the digital form, and I'm so inspired that now I'm going to record it. You know what I mean? And now I'm doing it from a different version. It's going to sound a little different. It's going to feel different, but it's inspired by his art that was inspired by her art. You know what I mean? Like this,
Hmm.
this whole like through line of artists inspiring each other. And when I would realize that, I was like, oh wow, like maybe that's why that song is so important to me, because what she did for him, he's doing for me.
Hmm.
And they've done for us, the whole world, really.
Oh,
But
yeah.
this specific past year and a half of me like really studying them and really like loving them and taking them in, and also learning about them, reading their books, finding out the tragic history of all the ups and downs, and just being able to relate, like they had so much success in the beginning, and then people were like, they kind of like discarded them for a while. And when nostalgia started to happen, then they started to have a career again. But can you imagine? I mean, I can imagine like being young, being at the top of your game, having success, and then all right, then people are like on to the next. Like they didn't have. I mean, I'm sure all those people now love the Beach Boys like we all do now. But knowing that they had that horrible, like, I don't know what that is, like a traffic jam of success, like where everything stops and halts, and all you can do now is sing your old songs. Like I think there's a sadness to that I kind of want to bring some triumph to them, and
Yeah.
like and today in 2026 be like, y'all were wrong. Like I mean, now everybody knows, obviously, like we know the Beach Boys are amazing, but knowing their story, that they went through all that stuff, I just want to make sure that my version is the best it could possibly be for me. And there was, let me say, there was nothing went unlooked. I looked at every mistake, I fixed everything, I made sure that this would be paying homage to them in a way that's like that they would be proud of. So, and I hope they are, I hope they listen to
Hmm.
this one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever get a chance to meet any of the Beach Boys?
I actually met Brian Wilson
Really?
but I had no real connection to him then. I just played Frankie Valli in
Hmm.
Jersey Boys on Broadway, and I was invited to his Gershwin album listening party. He had like a listening party in New York. And I really wish that I would have been this passionate about them then, because like I came in and I sat and I with everybody, and we listened, and I think I may have shook in his hand, and that was it. I wasn't like, oh nice, it's nice to meet you. Somebody said, oh, this guy's in Jersey Boys, and I was like, oh okay. It was a very quick interaction, but knowing that I like now that know him, because with all the research and with all the listening to his voice and knowing the storyline now, it's weird because like I could look back at that memory and be like, oh yeah, that was Brian. Like, oh yeah, and even though in that moment in time I didn't have any kind of like special connection. Now when I look back on that time, I'm like, oh yeah, through now I know him, and in that weird kind of like
Yeah.
time is linear kind of thing in your memory at least. So yes, to answer your question, I did meet him once, and it was special to be in the room and to be invited to like listen to that album.
60s music seems to be a big part of your life. I mean, you've got
Yes.
Jersey Boys, you were singing Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons songs, and now with the Catch a Wave, the album that you've got
Yeah.
out for the Beach Boys and Midtown Men.
Man,
You've
yep.
got
And
that, a lot of 60s in there. And, why the 60s?
well, exactly. Like sometimes you can't really choose what opportunities come your way. Like, I mean, you can, I guess you could try, right? You could apply. But my history, like I graduated NYU with a degree in drama, right? And I did what I thought every actor is supposed to do: go find a waiting job. So, like right away, I started singing at the singing waiter place, which is a famous 50s, 60s diner called Ellen's Stardust Diner in Times Square. And it
Mhm.
happens to be one block from Hairspray. And Hairspray had like just opened, and I had a friend in it. But I was singing this old school music, and again, my young self had no idea that Hairspray was about the '60s. Like my young self didn't know that the songs that I had to sing for my job would prepare me for my entire life and my entire career. Right. So like here I am, like serving burgers and fries and milkshakes. And they called me Skip, like I had a fake name, like, hey, I'm Skip. And we're singing these doo-wop songs, and I'm learning Run Around Sue. I didn't know the
Classics,
song,
yeah.
but yeah, but it was a beautiful song, and I learned it, and it became like my song. Like we all had one song that we did all the time for every set, kind of thing. And then when Hairspray was having auditions for a replacement, well, actually for the first national tour, I went in with Run Around Sue because I had sung that song 100 times at the diner, right? So it was one of those things that just kind of was natural to choose the song. And then turns out Hairspray is all about the 1960s, right? So then I do that show. Okay, great. And then Jersey Boys was right after. So it was like, okay, so I guess this is a thing. But it was really Frankie Valli, playing Frankie Valli, that really opened the door to that, to me as a singer. Like I grew up as a singer,
Yeah.
and then I studied to be an actor to play a singer. So it was like it kind of all just kind of the natural, I guess, trajectory of, um, even though I wanted to be like, this other kind of actor that would be singing Oklahoma and
Yeah.
West Side Story. That was my original reason for coming to New York. It turned out that like everybody else saw something else. Everybody else saw that my voice lent itself to the '60s, and these opportunities kind of just came at the right time. And luckily I was ready to give it my all in my really early 20s.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
When,
think I think that's why, just because of the opportunities.
yeah. So when you were a little kid, growing up, was that what you wanted to do? Did you want to be a singer and an actor and get out up on
Well,
stage?
yeah, well, when I was like 6 years old, my parents put me into a talent show, right, in East Los Angeles. And it was actually all Spanish songs. And I was the only person who sang an English song, and I sang O'Donna, Richie Valens.
Yes.
So like it was from back in then that I was singing these, like my mom called them oldies. I lovingly refer to them that way now, but now I kind of see them as timeless, which is interesting because to her, because she grew up in the '70s, like these '60s songs, those are old, to her. But she liked disco, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But so when we'd be cleaning the house, the oldies would come on the radio, or we'd have access to it in the car, and all these songs would come on, and they definitely colored my life, and they colored everyone's life who had access to a radio. Um, and it's just kind of beautiful that it came full circle like that. Like these songs were in my life, and I did kind of know about them, and now they're really a part of who I am.
Hello there, I'm David Payton from the group Pilot, and I am on Screen and Beyond.
We're going to finish up with one final question here.
Yeah.
But before I do that, I want to ask you something about where will people be able to get Catch a Wave?
Yeah, so it's going to be available on all digital platforms April 10th. And if you want to get the actual album, you're going to have to message me on the website or go to my Instagram at Michael Longoria Sings and just message me for the actual LP. If you want the
Oh,
actual,
so there's going to be a
this
physical.
one.
Oh,
This,
wow.
yes, it's an actual record, and we also have a CD. But the digital one was the main launch.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you really want to hear it right away, that's the way to get it like ASAP, is to go to iTunes or Spotify.
And your concert on Saturday night?
Yes. So at the Laurie Beachman, they redid the Laurie Beachman recently, and it's brand new downstairs. The stage and the audio equipment is really top notch. I've been wanting to do a show there forever. It's on 42nd Street, and it's near my where I live. And I also know the owners. The owners, one of them was actually a singing waiter with me at Ellen's, and now he's this big time Broadway producer, and he owns the Laurie Beachman. So it's kind of cool to be able to bring my show to his place and kind of like share in that celebration of knowing somebody for so long, and like if anybody knows my journey as a performer, that guy does. So so to be able to perform at the Laurie Beachman is quite an honor for me, and it's going to be like so fun. It's a live band. We're going to be singing all the songs from the album. It's all Beach Boys music, but in a brand new way. I would say like if you could imagine like a male version of the Ronettes, like I have my two guys behind me, and we're doing choreography, which is very different than how you would see it in a Beach Boys show. So it's going to be a new interpretation. So if you're down to catch some fun, I would say come to the Laurie Beachman on Saturday. The show's at 7 p.m. And yeah, you can get tickets at thebeachman.com.
Something for all ages. That's the great
Absolutely.
thing about it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It
You,
really
you,
is.
you know, Michael, you are the second person from the Jersey Boys who I've had on the show over the years. Quite a few years ago, I had John Lloyd Young on
Oh,
the show.
awesome.
I don't know if you knew him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we learned the show together. We were
Yeah.
we were there from that whole opening night, and he was always very kind, and it was lovely to work with him.
Well, like I said, the final question, taking us away from your album, Catch a Wave, and the concert and everything else you've got going on. But when you sit back and relax, what are your favorite TV shows now and of the past? And what's your favorite movies now and of the past? What do you enjoy?
Well, if we're gonna go to TV shows, I love the TV shows that are reality based. So like The Traders. I'm not sure if you're following that one. The Traders is really fun. It's just basically like a show where people try to vote each other off. It's like a version of Survivor, but with celebrities.
Yep.
So that one's very fun. Old movies, I love Sister Act. Whoopi Goldberg in the '90s was such an inspiration to me as a kid. Just seeing all those movies that she did were hilarious. But Sister Act and Sister Act 2 are classics for me. Um, Modern ones, though, I kind of want to see that space movie. Anything space related, where it's fantasy and like we're traveling to another not country, but when we're traveling to another world or something like that. I love those like sci-fi movies.
What about when you were a kid, when you were a little kid growing up? What did you enjoy then?
Well, it's interesting. Like I was one of three brothers, so like I was the one that there was no kids in my age bracket that lived on the block. So my older brother would have all his friends. They'd go bike riding. My younger brother would have his friends, and I would be sitting there alone. And my mom would be playing the piano, and that's how my mom kind of started to get me to sing. Like she'd be like, "Get over here," and she'd start teaching me songs, and then they realized that I had a talent. But it's also a family talent because my mom's a singer, and my mom's father was also musically talented. He was a guitar player, so it kind of I feel like it definitely does get passed down the pastime of music and the pleasure of it. So that was kind of like that was my childhood. I don't know if I would say I enjoyed doing it because my mom tells me that she would try to get me to sit down, and I was one of those hyper kids. I'd be jumping up on the couch, singing, jumping. She'd be like, "Michael, get down here, Michael." When we would have a lot of fights, me and my mom, because she'd always be trying to get me to sing. But now I'm so grateful that she did. She really she gave me a gift that is priceless, and without even probably knowing that she was doing it. We were probably just both bored, and we were both at the house, and she happened to be musically inclined, and that was something that we did to like pass the time, and that really gave me the foundation to like express myself, through song.
Yeah.
And because it was, I think because it was a different language, my mom, would teach me like mariachi songs and stuff that I didn't understand. But because I didn't understand it, it forced me to kind of understand the emotionality of it and what the melody was saying. And so in that way, I would understand what I was saying. Like it would.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, I would sing a song, and I wouldn't be able to translate what it was, but I felt it, and I definitely learned how to sing through the emotion of the melody.
Well, Michael, congratulations on the album. People should
Thank you
check
so
it out,
much.
catch a wave, check you out at the concert, and keep an eye on you, and keep listening. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing with
Thank
us.
you. It's my pleasure, man.
There he is, Michael Longoria, from Broadway to Catch a Wave, his new album, and it's available right now, and you can get a fresh take on the music of the Beach Boys. So be sure to check that out. Please subscribe to On Screen and Beyond on whatever platform you're watching or listening on, and be sure to check it out. And that way you get the episode as soon as I release it. So be sure to check that out. And that's it. That's a wrap for this episode of On Screen and Beyond. I hope you enjoyed it. So until next time, when we once again take you on screen and beyond, I'm Brian Zemrak. Take care.